Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities show. We are recording here just after the close, Friday, the 24th of March. Barry, March is almost over.
We're right there. Got
One
one
more
week
week.
left, 1 week of action left.
And then that's the quarter, too. Not only is it the
Yeah.
month, it's the quarter. First quarter will be in the books.
Yep.
So anyway, my name's Ben Maldonado, and you just heard my partner, Barry Hederachi. We are excited about the show this week. We are going to be covering, I'll be covering on the commodity side, wheat, corn, gold, silver, copper, crude, nat gas, and coffee. And Barry will do the review of the big five, we call it, which is the ES, bonds, gold, crude, copper, the dollar, and the euro. So we got a lot to get to. So let's jump right to it. We're going to start with Bitcoin. The interesting thing about Bitcoin, and Barry and I were just chatting a little bit when I put the chart up before we started recording. Look at how well this square is defining the price action.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 days worth of highs there. Here's your low here. And this is the essence of a square. When you get a good square and you get the vibration on the market, it gives you that edge because you know when it stays on top here, the probabilities of it going higher are greater than the probabilities of it going lower. Mm-hmm. Just like right now, because we're getting stuck under here, the probabilities of it going lower are much greater than the probabilities of it going higher.
And that's where you take the profit.
That's where you take, it's where we do the smash and grab. I've been talking about smash and grab all last few weeks because we're in, ES, Barry's going to go into that completely, but in a lot of markets, we're in chop. And it's funny, when I was doing the review, I started zooming out a little because I was like, this stuff is really frustrating and it's moving around and it's going nowhere. But you can see the patterns starting to emerge. But when you go to the weeklies and the monthlies, man, a lot of these things are in wave 4 type triangles and congestions and things like that. So that's where the frustration is coming from, not looking at your daily or your 4-hour or your 60-minute, but zoom out a little bit and you can see we're in corrective phases in a lot of these commodities and in the other risk markets like ES and NQs and Bitcoins and things like that. So it does help to zoom out. And when you get that perspective, it can ease your frustration because you're not looking for big moves when you're in there until we get done with these consolidations.
Right.
So anyway, back to Bitcoin. The levels to watch right now are the top of the full square, which is, call it 28,600. And then this half square here. If we fail at the top, the target's going to be around 24,300, and that's this half square. It's been a nice bullish move, really good technicals, checking back and pulling back. Even this little pullback here we had intra-week, was right on top of this previous high. So we'll see. But until we break through this full square, we're vulnerable to setbacks, all the way down to this 24 and change area. And by the way, all the levels that we cover are in a spreadsheet, a Google Doc spreadsheet, which we'll share the link to when we post the link to the video tomorrow morning. Anything else to add on Bitcoin? It's pretty straightforward, the levels we got to watch, but anything else you want to add?
Well, I think this is a major resistance, so it's a good place to, take some profits, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
You can always get back in on the other side. It's not a big deal. And the probabilities will be on your side at that point. This is a spot I was waiting for. So we got here and it stalled. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe a little false break before anything else. But to me, it looks like really big resistance in a lot of ways. So
yeah, I mean, not only the square, but this whole structure here we did for a couple months last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Is sitting right overhead. So,
yep.
Well, let me throw it over to you. I know you got a lot to cover, and let's throw it over and see what we can do with the big five.
All right.
That dreaded chop zone. Look at it. It's just one expanding triangle after another.
more or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, last week we left it off with, what did we leave it off? It's
We had our
40
pretty defined levels, right? 40.38 up top, 39.16 below.
right. So we ran up into 40.38. You can see we popped up a little bit the other day on Wednesday. Well, with all the Fed talk.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, we've been pretty much under the 40.38 decisively, really. Didn't quite get to 39.16, but we can say we're clearly in this bracket now. 40.38 to 39.16 bracket. I shared a chart on Twitter earlier this week. Let me see if I can.
That daily you shared?
Yeah, this one. And the deal here is, I was looking at these time counts, the cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take a look at this, the highs that we got right around early part of February, right? February 2nd, February 3rd, right in through here. And, that whole week was we were tapping against the highs. And I was looking at the cycle counts. I'm looking at these cycles that ended right at that pivot. We had a 405, 315, 180, a 60, 45 degrees,
45, yep.
240, 120, 135.
It's a lot.
Listen, man, I haven't seen, if you get those kinds of counts coming into some kind of a pivot, it has to mean something.
Right.
And normally it only goes two ways. Either it'll consolidate a bit and just blow through, and that means there's a whole nother leg up there.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it didn't do that. The other is, we start turning back the other way, which we did.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time of the high, you guys can pull the video for that week, and we talked about that, all the cycle counts and timing coming into that point. So we came down to a low on the 13th, but we didn't have as many counts there. It was kind of a low key, kind of a low. And then the high Wednesday, yeah, it's okay. Not a big deal. So my take is, we're not done going down yet. Now, this came into a good support, fine. But this is a tremendous number this is basically from every pivot.
Right.
Except for one. And I'm sure there's something there also.
Right.
So, it's just a lot. And I just wanted to talk about that and to explain how important that is.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean we crash, but we could just chop around or see more weakness, to burn off this next cycle time too.
Well, it doesn't mean it's going to crash. It just means that's a really important pivot, just like, this one here, the one over here, one over here, one, if you take all the pivots. And the question left is this pullback enough of a move to sort of justify that kind of a exploration of all these different time counts?
Exactly.
So that's the only question. It's really difficult to answer.
Time is the only thing that tells us whether that's true or not.
That's right. But looking at the pattern so far, I would say we have more to go, and we'll look on the downside. So I'm treating this more or less like another counter trend, right? We were down, counter trend. It's a little bit of a longer one, but counter trend nonetheless. So, so we'll see. Let's talk about it a little bit more on the other chart. So here we had 39.16, 40.38, and it looks like to me we're going to more or less be in the same bracket. I think 40.38 is probably in place. Just like we said last week, if we somehow settle above it, okay, fine. Maybe we can go up and test, 41.50, maybe a little bit higher, get into the 4,200 area. But up until we do that, this is in weak grounds. So 40.38 would be resistance at this point. And 39.16 area, we start hitting the brakes a little bit, some support. If we take that out, then we really could end up in this box somewhere. And if the box goes, then, then we're going to go back and test the lows last year. So that's kind of how it will break down as far as the levels go. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
No, just what we've been talking about, which is, you got to be quick to grab profit in this chop zone, because they'll take it away from you just as fast as you make it.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, we're getting the move, so you definitely have to take some when you have it, because until we kind of leave the area, then it's okay.
Right. We just when it starts trending again, we can do bigger size and we can sort of let the moves develop. But now it's just smash and grab. It really is.
Right, right, for sure. And yeah, that's what I have for the daily. I think we'll see how that works out. That's enough for now, I think, on the daily. And going to the weekly, what we have here is
Man, we're coiling right around your 52.
we're coiling around the 52, and we have a big old triangle here, which is not good news, looking out a little bit. Right? We have this line here. And then we have this one. So smash and grab runs might even get shorter.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be
But Barry, exactly what you're drawing is what I'm seeing in a lot of markets. Not just the ES that you're drawing here. It's in a lot of commodities, and it's in like weeklies, monthlies, dailies. This is the frustration I think people are feeling is, we're bouncing around, but we're going nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just, it's another phase. Market goes through different phases for whatever reason. So, you can clearly say the running phase is over, right? Now, ever since we got into, let's say,
May, June last year, right?
Halfway through last year, we started forming this really, really tight pattern. So we're stuck in that till we get out. There's no two ways about that. And we can talk, trend and this and that all we want, but the reality is we're stuck in here.
That's right.
And we're going to have to deal with it. And we can't pretend there's no consolidation going on in higher time frames and act like it's trending. It's not.
No.
And so this is so this week would register as a one bar out. We had an inside bar last week. Right? And we have one bar. We didn't take out the one before that, though. So this is still very, very tight. I mean, it's being managed really well. So I would say, keep that leash short. That's the only way to do this. At least we get through this area, right?
Yeah.
And the area really, if you look back, we got stuck over here a while back. So it really comes down to being able to leave 40.38 or 39.16, and every time we've broken out of it, we really didn't go far other than what we did last year. It's really been a little bit weak above, came back. It's like mean reversion to some line over here.
Yes.
It's like 39.75 or 39.80, somewhere in there, right? We're just wrapping around that. So I would say be careful. We got to wait. We do have a low in here. We have this pivot high is pretty well confirmed. And the low is okay. Not great. It's okay. So I think this one carries a lot of weight. So we'll see how long we'll hang around and burn up time.
Yeah.
Moving on to bonds. Not much. We're also
coiling up there, huh?
Coiling up, and we spent most of the week, within that box, right? Right here between 130 and 132. Yeah, today we started to break out a little bit, and we do have this potential target way up here. We'll see how that works out. But for now, it looks like it might consolidate a little bit more. Can it go up and test the half 50% of the square around 135? Sure. I mean, that would be the natural move from these lows, right? So we'll see how that goes. We were, I was very bearish on this till we started taking out this 130. We had all that resistance above, got above. You see how now 130 became the support, right?
Yep.
We have to respect that. We're not quite sitting on top of 132, but this is, definitely pushing in that direction. So we'll see. I'm not clear exactly what's going to happen next week, but it looks like the move is towards at least testing this 135.
Mm-hmm.
And if the overhead is, if there's 132, if somehow we get under it next week, then we might have another shot at coming back to 132, maybe get stuck in this box.
Yep.
Right. So looks like we get a little bit higher to go. Don't have a lot of, let me see how it looks. So that ends up being a full square top of that Gartley box, right? Target
Mm-hmm.
box.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 90. That would be 140. Would be 90 up. Maybe.
Possible.
Well, from
If
here,
it-
I guess we hit the half square. So let's watch that. That would be really the one to take out. Maybe move this 132 to the half. Just adjust that.
Mhm.
All right. Anything you want to add to bonds? What, from the stuff
Just like you said, I had weekly support at about 130.24. So it's just as long as we're above that, we're going to be supported. And the monthly is in like a wave 4 there. So that's why we're getting this messy, sort of back and forth price action right now.
Yeah, so we'll move that 132 to 134 because that is 50% of the square. We'll work with that. It's a nice and clean chart. So
sure.
And on to weekly bonds. Well, we drew up that little triangle, and
that's perfect.
Yeah, another, it's either expanding or it's contracting.
Contracting, right?
All over the place.
But I mean, there you can see even on the weekly, it looks like this is a wave 4 after, you can see kind of 3 moves, 3 waves down.
Yeah, that's right. Very good. Because that was a simple too, right? If you want to look at it like that. So
yeah.
Yeah. Or this could be a 2, right? 1, 2.
Yep. And then 3, and then
this 4.
This is just messing around in this 4.
Either way, it's messy, so save your powder for now till we get a corner lined up.
Yep, exactly.
Move it on to crude. Well, this has got a lot of potential at this point.
Absolutely. Look at that timing you got right there.
Look at that. And look at that price, right?
Yep.
So we talked about, actually, I didn't talk about this week enough. Probably should have talked about it.
I threw out a couple of tweets because it was a good bottom, I think.
So we had timing. We talked about the crude, I think last week, maybe the week before. We spent a little bit of time on crude, talking about the timing and the potential square. And we had to at least touch 64.75 at a minimum, which we did.
And to your credit, Barry, you actually talked about it when it was in that congestion. You said you wouldn't be surprised to see it, push down and shake people out. And it did it and went right into support.
Right. So yeah, that's right. From the break up here, right? The 90-day break, we came down here. So now the question is, how fast are we going to kind of spool up and get some momentum going? If there's really no news or anything really driving, it might just spend a lot of time up here. So that's why I was talking to you the other day about positions being better than options in it, when things are not sure, right?
For now, yeah.
For now. So anyway, this low looks good. Of course, it's good up until 62, which would be the half square, 135 degrees down from the high. But because of the timing, this really looks okay. And we had you were looking at nat gas, we had that big low. Then you're looking for that first pullback. So here's the first pullback. It's a 1 bar, looks pretty good. They bought it up. And so I would watch this and look for your system to generate long side trades could be taken,
Agreed.
And that's something we maybe we should do a separate video on that. We talk about corners, the whole thing is about corner to corner, basic is what we trade. And for people talking about the squares and, having some questions, you can do the squares and do all the work. In the meantime, sort of the learning phase, what you could do is, once we talk about corners, lows and highs, come in, kind of confirm them on the show. What you can do is use your system and wait for it to generate a signal, if we get a low, you'd wait for the buy signals, and you wouldn't be taking the sell signals.
Right.
You trade
exactly right.
directionally, right? You turn directional.
Yep.
And if we sort of mark a high, well, then you start taking the sell side signals, not the buys. So that alone can improve the performance in a huge way. So that's one way to apply this stuff. Move it on to, let's see, the weekly.
Right into your box, man. Look at that. Beautiful.
I might just have to switch now to trading crude all the time instead of the ES.
Yeah.
Good market, man, when it's moving, right?
Yeah, it's really nice.
And because we just took a 3-month rest, I think it's really the time to start getting on this now. So like you said, we came into that box that we drew out a couple of weeks ago, found support. I mean, we can breathe a sigh of relief once we take out 75 to the upside and settle above this, right? That'd be very, very positive at this point, because we know what happened behind us, right? So taking this out, the 75 area, 74, 75 settling above that is very good, positive at this point. But now, that half square around 74 and some change is going to act as resistance, but we can see how it goes up there and, how it'll test out.
And
now
watching it this week, Barry, it spent almost no time down at that low.
Yeah.
I mean, it tagged the low and moved out pretty quickly. It wasn't like it traded there all day. So that's something else. That low was bought quickly.
Right. So let's see how it works out from here. We got good volatility, good movement. So let's keep an eye on that. I think crude's a good market for now. Now that we broke out of the
box.
Now we just have to get through it. All right, gold, another market that's been trending. I think you're going to talk about gold today, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Last week we left off with 140 being support, and if 140 held, then we're going to definitely test the 2000, which is exactly what it did. We had to pull back to test 1940.
Yep.
And bounce 2000. There it is. Please like our videos and share.
Yeah. Now it's now battling at your 90, right? It's a decision point here.
Yeah, it's definitely battling at 90. And I feel like unless we can clear that and really sit on top, which we're not doing yet. Sitting on top is right here. You see how we came down one day, next day, mess around a little bit and boom, rallied, right?
Yep.
And sitting on top is here, 1814. We came down twice, double tap and boom. So here, in order for it to move higher, we definitely need to clear this. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's not. We're not saying that at every price. It's just only because it's the 90, and we had to wait over 6 months for a price to get to that. So
yeah, that's right.
So it's kind of an important level. Let me see if we have any times here. We have 180.
Not bad.
Right there. So, that's going to be important. So, and that's coming off of this low. We have a couple of other lows here that the timing could be going off of 158, 160, let's say 144. So we have 144 there.
Yeah, a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely add up some numbers. So it's there. And because of that and the 90 and, the fact that we really couldn't hold above that, I would definitely watch price next week for, any kind of weakness. If we can't get above 1982, that it's kind of a critical spot.
But it's interesting, Barry, and I'm going to talk about it because I'm going to put the different markets in different categories. This is one where we see the trend. It's a trending market, unlike the other ones, ES and bonds and other things we were looking at where you see just that it's in a chop, right? It's in a triangle. This thing is trending.
Right. It sure is. And
so
and the trending part is fine. And, within the trend, we hit these critical points, and this is one of them.
Yep.
And so we have to sort of pay attention to it, mainly because the next critical point is 2345.
Right. So if it's going there, we'll know it, and we want to be on it. Right?
That's right.
You want to be on
now, the key thing, the move that we caught here was we came down to the 50%. 1814 was the level. You guys can go check the videos, right? And we stopped right there. Then we were looking for 1887 as a minimum. Boom, boom, right? Hop, skip, and a jump, and here we are at the high. So that was the trade. Now, because we're at 90, now we have to pause. We're really close to 180 degrees off the lows. We're getting into that zone, right? So no matter which low you come off of, we're going to have a 180 right in here, somewhere coming in, through the next couple of weeks. So I would say, it's a time to, you don't get 180s from a low every day either. So you got to be careful here and kind of watch your positions, right?
Right. And the idea is that something's finishing, what comes next, right? We don't know what comes next. Well, that's why we have to watch price and we watch time and we see, and then as the pattern unfolds, we can say, oh, it's a correction, it's a pullback, or it's going to continue. If it settles on top of the 90, then the
you trade the long
possibility,
side, just like you said, once if it sits on top of a level, then you trade the long side.
Yep.
From there on till we get to the next critical level, right?
That's right.
And that's kind of, it makes things simpler. Really. All right, let's take a look at the weekly gold. The weekly gold right there.
At the half square. Oh no, here we go.
Yep, there you go. So here, I had 2000 marked up and we came untapped it. And the low the week prior was this 1881 that we talked about, right? And the 19 was the clearance. We got clearance, boom. And now really, far as weekly is concerned, anything settling above 1919 is really bullish. Yeah, we might get some volatility, but long as it's above 1919, like you said, is trending.
Yep, that's right.
There's no two ways about that. And not only is it trending, I'll tell you what, though, if we get some kind of a target up here, not only do we get a trend, we might also get a little bit of a panic somewhere.
That's true, because that's all-time highs up there.
Yeah, that'd be 2168, 2 points, 2168. So I'll leave that there. We'll see how it works out. For now, daily might be pausing, but long as it's above 1919 on the weekly,
still
gold's on firm ground. Yeah,
that's a good write-up on. That's a good workup on gold.
Yeah, we had to talk about that because it's at a critical point. And speaking of 180s, here's copper.
Yep, here's another one
out. And we were looking for that low to come in. We got the low in copper, ran up quarter of the square. Yeah, some resistance up here. And we might continue some consolidation, so watch your positions. And we were bullish coming off of here, but it's probably from the quarter square, since we found resistance there before, it's probably time to consolidate a bit, maybe get a little bit of a counter trend. And weekly copper, pretty much, I think last week we were talking about, hey, this is really, we got support here. And this week we got the bounce, right? We got the low, not much to say.
Still battling at that half square.
It's battling, but it'll work itself out once we clear that critical level on the daily up here, quarter square, right? And the quarter square would be right about 418. All right, moving on to the dollar. So this is the part I was looking at this and gold, Now dollar didn't go and make a new low here, right?
Right.
So it came down to support. It came down to the let's see, maybe this is the we came down to quarter square, so and it's a good support area. Now the critical thing next week for the dollar will be to really get on top of this 103.50. 103.5 is the critical level. If we can't get above that, we're going to consolidate and maybe even hang around here for a while. So 103.5 for next week. If you get above it, I think we're back on track. If we don't, well, we're going to consolidate more, maybe even go test the lows out. But because of the way gold and the dollar are working, since gold hit a kind of a critical level, I'm thinking this is done, and this was kind of the washout, extended part to panic everybody onto the downside.
Could be.
we'll see. I mean, the proof would be 103.5 being taken out. So without that happening, we're not going to try to be heroes. We'll
Right.
wait.
Right.
These are big markets. So, and on the weekly dollar, you can see we came right down to the eighth of a square, right? 7/8 line, which is sort of like the last line. After you 7/8, we got the full square. And pretty much along the lines of the trend line that we had in place. And a pretty good, they bought it back up, right? All the way back.
They did.
Yeah. So it looks okay. That could be a low, which means that could be a high in gold. I'm kind of just thinking out loud. So it's possible that we had that. And of course, we had 3 weeks of downside, which is it's a decent correction. All right. Let's see where we go from here. Is that clear? Like, you have anything to add on the dollar, right?
No, I think you have a good summary. We know the level that is the key, and above it, it's the rally continues.
103.5. Yep.
And if it can't get above it, then you got to expect it. We're probably going to take out those lows.
Right. And we got the expanding triangle. So if we clear 103.5, we're going to go up in here.
Yeah.
If not more, right?
All
right. Next, we have the euro. Still stuck under the 144.
With a lower high.
With a lower high. There's 108 was sort of the key. And we had the little triangle action going. We blew the triangle out. So that tells me that was kind of an extreme move, right? In the euro, this part. So technically, I'm expecting it to go back and test at least the half square at a minimum. And go back and test the lower part of the expanding triangle at most for now. So I think the time of period of quick pivot moves are done, and you can see like we've been consolidating for a while, and the market it's getting pretty messy. Anytime you got an expanding triangle working out, it gets messy. So I would say to really watch your positions, and I really don't have a direction here till the dollar takes out 103.5. Right, this looks a little messy. There are a lot of good markets, so why get stuck in trading something messy, right?
So true. So true.
Looking at the weekly euro, well, here's your counter trend. If that was a high, we went down, and there's your counter trend, right? And so, if you want to be technical about this, if we take out this week's low, we can say, that high is in place. Dollar has a low in place. Potentially, gold has a high in place. We'll see. We'll see how they all tie together. But for now, it is a lower high, and we have all kinds of overhead here at the green this line, the 1/3 line, and it backed off. I really can't see it, settling above this and running up. It could happen, but I'm not putting my money on it. So,
and it's not high probability at this point.
No. This is. I mean, this is high probability. This low came in pretty well. This leg was pretty good. Now we have to, how long are we going to mess around before we continue down? And that
correct.
That could be weeks, and even if we do it, we'll see. For now, it's definitely weak below the 50% of the square. But especially at the 1/3, because we do have overhead sitting on top of that. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Yeah, that's all I have for this week. And if you guys like our work, please like and subscribe and share. Help us grow. And also comment. If you guys have any comments or questions, we try to get to those when we have them. And that's it for me. Let me put it back to you. We'll cover all the commodities. I know you got a whole
bunch to run through.
Pretty much everything we track. So,
almost.
All right.
Good job. Good coverage, Barry.
Thanks. Ben, we made it almost to the target. Almost full square.
Just under the full square. But the key thing to look at is we spent the whole week in this half square.
Yeah.
And that, once we settled on top, which we did last week, we said, all right, as long as we're on top of here, odds favor we're going to make our way up to the full square. Almost did in the after the Fed announcement. Just
Right,
came
right.
short. And then, last
Not
2 days,
captive.
we
Yep. Mhm.
basically looks like we're forming a triangle here.
Yeah.
Couple inside, triangles everywhere.
Mhm.
But again, the key, we know the markers, right? Full square is up here around 13,100. So that's the marker on the top. We want to, if the bulls are going to have their way, we're going to get on top and stay on top of that and then open up this new square. If we can't get on top of that, we want to make sure we stay on top of the half square, which is around 12,500. That's for the bullish picture. For the bears, you want to stay below here and then get below here next, because then that'll open up the bottom half of the square. But right now, you can see for the last couple months, we've been in this range, just basically in this square from a price standpoint. I'd say as long as we're over the half square, you call it bullish. If we get stuck under this half square, then something
Bearish.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, bigger correction is starting. In
Mhm.
here, we're probably just going to chop around.
Yeah.
A lot like we did here until we tested the bottom and then broke out.
Right.
You got anything else to add to this one, Barry, before we jump into the commodities?
Well, just that, the cycles we looked at, all those cycle counts on the S&P, it applies here as well because those highs came in about the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have a higher high in place above that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, meaning, is this a false break?
Right. Yeah, we'll see. But we know the levels. We watch the levels and we play the levels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the commodities, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to try and differentiate the ones I'm highlighting. So we're going to put them into two groups. One group we're going to say is trending and it's confirmed. And then the other group will be, we're trying to get a corner, or it's correcting, or we're trying to anticipate and get in position for the next leg and the next move, the next trending move. So let's start first with the ones that are trending. And ironically, all three that are in that group are in the metals group.
Surprise.
Right. So here's gold. Now my chart's a little different than Barry's, so I have a little different trigger, but our conclusions are the same. We're in a trending market. We called this low coming in and watched it sort of and traded it as it moved up and out. And we're at a critical spot on my chart because my full square is around 1973.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a bar, today's bar, fully over that. If you go back and look at here, I was looking to see how many actual bars at the all-time high did we have over, including the first pullback. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 bars have closed over this full square level here. So today could be pretty significant. Now, if Sunday, Monday, we just, pull right back through it, so much for the significance there, and you got a little lower high, so we could correct. Also, you could see the possibility that we might be forming another triangle here. So to me, the key level here is 1973. Stay on top of that. We're going to assault the all-time highs here at this half square. And that's like 2065, 2066 area.
Yep.
You fully covered gold, so we don't have to spend much time. So I just wanted to point this out. This is a trending market, right? Mm-hmm. That's a market that you want to be involved in to the bullish side because that's how it's trending.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump to the next metal, silver. Trend's not as sharp as you can see, not as sharp as an angle as gold, but it's trending.
Mm-hmm.
Again, last fall, we were sort of mapping and calling out and watching this low come in. We've had a nice push up, pretty sharp pullback, but look at this move that we've had the last couple of weeks, right? Found support on this trend line from connecting these lows. We hit here, pushed up. The important thing, spent 3 days here battling at this full square. This is a perfect example. Don't look at these 3 bars, but look here. This is what we talk about, and Barry was talking about in another market as a decision point, right? We hit this at Bitcoin we were talking about. You hit the square, and it's deciding, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to fail here and consolidate or correct, or do we punch through? Well, here we punch through, and so now this coming week, what we want to watch is, do we come back and sit on top of it? You know, on any pullbacks, can we stay on top of this full square like we did here? Right. Punched through, pulled back, made a new high. Now we failed at the half square, which you can see pretty clearly there. But this is how sort of the squares move, and why silver looks pretty bullish. You know, especially if we stay above this half square. I mean, this full square, and the range, and there's, call it 2265. That's the key level next week. Stay above that. We should challenge these highs here, clear that, and then we're going to be challenging the all-time highs from February of 22. Silver looks good. Let's go to the last one. Barry talked about this, and that's copper. You can see again, the low came in, and we're trending, right? Trending means you're moving in one direction with, you know, with price and speed and time. You're moving, you're not going sideways, right? Like this is not a trending market here, right? This is a trending market. So here we talked about last week, we had this price and time spot that came in perfectly. And look at the move we got out of there this week. Currently, we're battling at this half square, which is right around 409, 410. We closed under it. I'd like to see next week we get some bars above it, pull back and stay on top of that. And that tells us the next leg, you know, that this leg still has more to go. If we get stuck here, we may chop around, you know, in this, you know, eighth here or this quarter here. But we'll watch it. But it is a market that's bullish. You got, you know, a nice series of higher highs and higher lows, bigger picture triangle. So you can imagine, if you look at your weekly and your monthly, how that triangle will look. And that's what's driving a lot of these markets. All right, so let's go to the next group, which is, these are ones where we're trying to call out a turn or a corner, or we've had a corner and we've had a pullback and a correction, and now we're trying to see, are we going to get that trend? You know, you get a low, and then you get the first move out, and then the first pullback comes, and it can either give you a higher low, a lower low, or just you get chop, right? And that's what we're trying to decipher. What kind of a move after a first pullback, you know, are we looking at going forward? Let's start with a couple grains first. So here's wheat. Wheat, I've been talking about, you know, since these lows have come in. This one specifically. Well, this week we made a lower low. The interesting thing about the wheat chart, and why I think this might be a corner, at this spot, 180 by 270 from here, which is a nice square at the low. And today, I was watching the grains today. They were all, you know, you can see where it opened. It opened on the low, and they looked like they were just going to crater. And all of a sudden, they shot up. I think on the day, wheat closed up 4% and corn closed up 2%. So there was some kind of reaction here at this low. I don't know if it was the square. I don't know if it was, you know, some sort of other timing that came in. But this price action was very encouraging to me. Of course, you can see where it found resistance, which is this half square. So what we want to watch this coming week is, can we get through this half square, take out this previous high here, because that would give us then a good shot of, you know, making a higher low on a pullback. So this is super early on wheat, but because of the square and because of the price action today, I thought it was worth mentioning and worth looking at. This square, you know, 180 by 270 is fairly significant. Anything to add on wheat, Barry, or anything you want to point out on wheat?
Well, just that square, you know, we didn't quite touch the 180, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
For farming, right? So,
yeah.
And the other thing that could be happening is we could have a mini 3 drives to a low and then take off. So, just either way, we're trying to confirm the low. It looks like we can have one and just waiting for evidence.
So this key level is right around 700 where this half square is.
Right.
Watch that next week. We want to get above that and then settle on top of it. Corn's in a much stronger position, better, more defined uptrend. We had the sharp pullback, a nice rally up, and then we went sideways. And then this sort of, to me, it looks like some sort of clean out move, right? They took out the previous low we had and then jammed it one more time, and then we shot it right back up. And again, corn, for some reason, it was selling off early in the morning and then rallied hard and closed on the highs, up a little over 2%. So a lot like wheat, this half square is the key spot, right? We want to capture this half square, call it 645, and get above that, sit on it, and then we can move up and take on, the full square up here around 672. But I like the price action here. Unlike wheat, we made a higher low this week, not a lower low.
Mm-hmm.
And we took out the previous high here, and then we pulled back, and then we had this really nice move today. So I like corn. It looks strong. Got a series of higher lows here. Even coming off that high after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we had a sharp pullback, rallied, and then another higher low here that's getting confirmed. So I like corn. I like the way it looks. I like the way it's acting. Something flipped in these markets today. Because as I said, they were down a couple percent and ended up a couple percent. So something did change in these markets. Anything to add here on corn, Barry?
Well, just that the low in July was squared out. That was 60 by 120.
Mm-hmm.
So that low is in place. And, it wasn't taken out.
No.
And we had a 50% correction. And now we're working it, 50% correction was at high in October. And so we came off of that. And these are the lows we're coming off, working with at this point. So anything higher from here, especially getting on top of that half square, it has to be bullish.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take out this trend line, and then you have a nice uptrend going here on corn.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to energy. This looks familiar, right, Barry? He talked about crude.
Yep.
So here's the only thing I'll add to what Barry said. This is in my opinion a good low. We have on the daily at the low, which came on the vernal equinox, which is important. 135 by 270 on the daily. Here.
Yep.
Right here. It's a nice square. It's a good square. Had a push up. Here's the key level, short term. 70-50. Get above that half square, and then we've got something working. As you said, I was watching today. We were down pretty big, and man, they bought this thing up. It didn't stay long on this low, and it didn't stay long on the lows from today when buyers came in. So as soon as we capture this half square, the confidence will rise that we have even higher probabilities that this is a good low in crude. And then it's basically level to level. Next level here, next level here, next level here. But this, I really liked the price action I've seen the last few days and the last week or so in crude. The low came in with good timing, good square. We've had a push up out, and now they tried to bring it down again today and just bought it right back up. So crude is definitely on the watch list. Next one, the Widowmaker. So the thing I'll point out, because I've talked about this for weeks now, Ben, I think and I thought this was a very good low. We've come back, we pushed out of here nicely, failed at the full square, and now we've sort of made like shuffle steps. Look at how small the bars are getting. And this is nat gas, right? you see in the past when it's moving how big the bars are. When was the last time we had little bars like this? Let's go down to another low. Look familiar?
Yep. Last time we got calls.
That's right.
That's
So
what
what
happened.
here's this is going into the after the pandemic. Here's the lows we were making. Small bars, made a low, had a push up out, meandered back down, call it a double bottom, call it a higher low. Then look what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the same exact thing's going to happen, but it's worth it's worth going back and looking at the charts and seeing, what was the price action at different lows? Were the bars big? Were the bars small? These bars it's really getting sedate here.
Yeah.
So what can happen here? Well, the important level is this half square, which is at like 223. We closed under it, which under normal circumstances would be bearish, and you'd say, okay, we gotta watch out, because we could come all the way down here and test this full square, right? The thing I would say to watch in the coming week is, do we make a lower low? Do we make a false break low? Do we make a higher low? Do we make a double bottom? Can we get over this half square?
Right.
That's the key. Settling on top of the half square opens up the full square, which is about 282. And then taking out this high opens up this half square. I mean, in a blink of an eye, this thing could be, $4.
Yep.
And that's what we're watching. That's what we're sort of tracking here to see what is this low going to hold. And we had decent squares here at this low as well. But price rules, right? And we want to make sure we get the close over this half square, and then that gives us a much higher confidence that this thing is heading north again. Anything to add on that, Barry?
Not really, other than I think it's a great exercise to, sort of talk about this every week and see how things sort of come into a corner or not. And either way, I think this is going to be a fun trade.
Yeah.
So I think the patience is worth it. And also, anytime, speaking of the size of the bars, anytime prices start to contract, there's some kind of a break coming at some point, and especially in that gas. So there's something building up here next couple of weeks at most. So
yeah, we want to watch closely.
Yep.
All right, last one we're going to look at is one of the softs, and that's coffee. Now, why did I want to highlight coffee? We talked about this low coming in January as it was coming in, and said, hey, this once we got above this half square, we said, okay, this is looking pretty good. And we got a nice move up. Look where we failed, price and time here. We had the half square with timing, and now we've come off. Look at the battle that's gone on at this full square, Barry. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. And if you go back 9, 10, 11, there were 3 days over here.
Yep.
So there is a serious battle going on at this full square. And then look how we closed today. We opened at the high. They tried to take it down. They tested the full square, and we closed at the high. So something's going on in this market, and the bulls are not letting this thing get appreciably below this 173, 174 area. For the last 2 weeks or so, they're just buying it every time it hits there. Now, are there technical reasons? Yeah, look, because here are the highs in November, December. And we have our square. We have our square here. But my thing in the coming week is, if we take out this high here on these bars, like around 182, 183, this thing could fly. And so coffee is definitely on the radar. This pullback, while we expected it when we failed here, it's really being defended. This level is really being defended and really being bought. So somebody wants to own it for some reason. We'll see what that reason is probably in the next week or so. Anything else to add here on coffee?
We're good.
Okay. So the week that's coming up, I know that all that timing you had on ES has got to have your like antenna twitching right now, huh? So other than ES, what are you going to be looking at? Crude,
ES, bonds, gold. and the dollar, because they're all at critical points, right?
Yeah.
And gold, is it a high or are we going to continue? Dollar, is it a low or are we going to continue?
Mm-hmm.
Bonds, same thing. S&P, we're in the bracket. We got to see how we're going to break out of that. So everything's at critical levels again. So, we got to keep an eye on everything. Crude is going to be important because if we can actually, get the job done down here, I think it'll be a lot of fun to trade that.
Agreed.
And of course, I'm watching nat gas to see because it's about time, right?
Yep. One of the interesting things this week, Barry, that like the message I got in the review was that these bigger time frames are all in these consolidations or triangles for a lot of these markets.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been that way for 12, 18, 24 months for some of these markets. So, and we're getting nearer and nearer to the apexes. So something is going to move in a big way from a high time frame. Like the energy from a weekly or the energy from a monthly is going to be released. Now, I'm not saying it's next week, but in the next few months, next few weeks, that energy, when these triangles break, that energy is going to be released. And I think it's what's going to break some of these markets where we've seen these, these corrections on a daily where it looks like, oh, it's been in a downtrend for 18 months. The commodity bull market is over. Forget about this stuff. I think that sort of psychology and sentiment is going to change dramatically once these higher time frame consolidations are done. And it's not, I don't think it's that far away. Anyway, great show, Barry. Good review. Everybody have a great week. We hope the information we provided is helpful. If you do find it helpful, please, share, like, and ring the bell, do all the things on YouTube that can help us grow the channel, and we'd appreciate it. Have a good week, Barry.
Thanks. Good job. Have a good week.
All right. Bye.